Hey Crave parents, it's Kevin Nunnery, high school pastor, here with a series preview. In the month of May, we will actually only gather 3 times on the 2nd, the 16th, and the 23rd. We'll be taking off Mother's Day and Memorial Day weekend. Those 3 weeks that we are together, we're going to be in a series called Wipeout. Now, sometimes in life we slip or we stumble. We glance around surreptitiously, hoping that no one noticed. And other times we just completely wipe out. And on those occasions, it's far more likely that someone has noticed. In the course of this series, we're going to look at 3 distinct areas of our lives where we're prone to wipe out, and we'll discuss how can we avoid doing so. Our theme verses for the series come from Lamentations 3:22 and 23, which say, "The faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning." In week 1, on May 2nd, we're going to talk about our pace. So many of us feel like there's just not enough hours in the day for everything in our schedule. We run and we run and we run. We're exhausted. We're overcommitted. We're stretched way too thin. And honestly, we're chasing a lot of things that are ultimately empty. God calls us to run the race He has set before us with endurance. But we have to ask, are we running His race, or are we caught in the rat race of the world? And how in the world can we even begin to develop endurance? Our primary passage will be Matthew 11:28 through 30, where Jesus gives a gracious invitation to all who feel worn out and crushed. A few questions you might ask your student following this week's teaching. Do you feel that your current pace is healthy? Are your priorities properly ordered? What could you cut? How can you incorporate more time for Jesus into your regular rhythms? In week 2 of our series, we'll talk about what it looks like when we're off target. Sometimes we're simply just not dialed into who Jesus is, what He has done, and how He wants to use us to advance His kingdom. Your attention is a valuable commodity that virtually everyone and everything is competing to capture. Where would you say you're focused? While we can of course get off target and wipe out in sinful situations, sometimes we're simply caught up in things that are neutral but distracting. Our texts for this week will be Matthew 14:24 through 33, where Peter climbs out of the boat to walk on the water, takes his eyes off of Jesus, and begins to sink. We'll also look at Luke 10:38 through 42, where Jesus helps a dear friend understand how to slow down and focus on what matters most. Coming out of this week, you might ask your student, what distractions in your life are keeping you from focusing on Jesus? What can we do about these distractions? The final week of our Wipeout series will be May 23rd. We'll be discussing bitterness and resentment, which can cause major wipeout in our life as quick as about anything. When we know that we have broken relationships, the step that Jesus gives us in Matthew 5 is to make reconciliation a priority. Forgiveness can feel impossible in certain situations, but we know that Jesus has forgiven us, and He calls us to forgive others. To fail to do so is not only to disobey what Jesus made abundantly clear, but to stunt our relational and emotional health. Our primary passage that we'll look at this week is Ephesians 4:31 and 32, where Paul calls us to be kind, tender-hearted, and forgiving of others, just as Christ has forgiven us. I'm thrilled to have Brookwood Care Pastor Gene Beckner guest speak for us on this subject. And coming out of Gene's message, you might ask your student, who do you need to forgive? Who do you need to seek forgiveness from? And what's preventing you from taking those steps? We know that we're prone to slip and stumble along the way, but it's my hope that this series will help you and help your students know how to guard against some of these things that cause us to wipe out. Know that you can find the weekly teaching in our podcast. Basically anywhere podcasts can be found, just search for Crave High School Ministry. Brief recap videos are available by midweek on our YouTube channel. Just search for Brookwood Students. Thank you as always for allowing us to partner with you in the discipleship journey of your high school student. Praying for your family. We hope to see your students soon.